I think you can take over the session. Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am. Hope you're having a beautiful day.
Good morning. So let me just share my screen.
Yes,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
can stop the presentation.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. You are free to share your screen, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to start with this problem FizzBuzz, which I think we were introduced to last class. So for those of you who don't remember, we're given three inputs, x, y, and n, and we have to print numbers from 1 up till n, including n, okay, so 1 to 7 in this case. And if the number is divisible by x and y, like 2 for example, or 6 for example, is divisible by x and y, which is 2 and 3, we print FizzBuzz. If it is divisible by only x, we print fizz. And if it is divisible by only y, we print buzz. Okay, so I am going to write the code based on suggestions from you guys today, and then I'll show you my solution after that. So, sorry, can anyone tell me what the for loop would be? Just the range of the for loop, the first line, nothing else. You can see I already have the input here. So if someone can put in the chat the first line of the for loop, that would be great.
Ma'am, we have a response. It is for I in range 1 to n plus 1.
Okay, great. So for I... Okay. So now what they've asked is for each number, we have to see whether it's divisible by both 3 and 2, or rather x and y, divisible by x or divisible by y. So who can tell me what the first condition will be? I'm sorry, excuse me. Okay, I can see someone has put a condition which is correct, and that is I modulo x is equal to 0 and I modulo y is equal to 0. So that's great. So I'll just write that down. Okay. And what's the print statement going to be?
Ma'am, someone has put in the entire for loop. The print statement is going to be FizzBuzz.
Okay, that's great. But you don't need to put in the full thing right now. We can just go one line at a time. Okay, there's going to be another if condition here. So can anyone tell me what the next if is going to be? And is it going to be an else if or just an if? Okay, I can see someone has put else if I mod x is equal to 0, and a lot of you have put it's going to be else if. That's correct, so that's great. And for those of you who aren't sure about this, the reason we're putting else if and not just if is because we want only one output per number, and if we put just an if the number is divisible by 2 and 3, it's going to print FizzBuzz and then buzz for the same number, okay? I'll show you how that runs also once we're done with this program. Okay, so I'm just going to write what we print in this case. Sorry. And who can tell me what the next condition is? Okay, someone pointed out.
Ma'am, we have a response which is I modulo of y is equal to 0.
Okay, that's great. And for the last one, can I just put an else or do I need a condition?
Ma'am, we have a response that just says you just have to put an else.
Okay. I think we just print the number in this case. So let's run this. Okay, so this is the expected output, okay, over here. And now I'm just going to show you what happens if I don't put an else if. Okay, so you can see that in the case of 6, it's going to print fizzbuzz because it's going to come in here. Then it's going to be 6, which is divisible by 2. So it's going to print fizz again for that same number. And then it's going to print buzz again because 6 is divisible by 3 also. Okay, so that's why we're using the else if. So are there any questions about this?
No, ma'am, we seem to have no more questions regarding this. You may proceed.
Great. So next, we're going to skip this one for now. We'll come back to it at the end. And this is the question we're going to do. So this question basically says we're given 3 cups. Okay, these dots are cups. And there is a ball under the leftmost, this first cup. And we are given an input, which is ABC, okay, in any order, repeated any number of times. And we want to know under which cup the ball is going to be at the end of all these operations. So A means the first 2 cups are switched. B means B is an operation, okay? B means the second and third cups are switched. And C means the first and third cups are switched, okay? And this 1 and 3 means this first cup is referred to as 1, second is referred to as 2, and third is referred to as 3, okay? So the aim is to find out under which cup the ball will be 1, 2, or 3 at the end of all of these operations, okay? So any questions about this question? Or did everyone follow this? I think you would have seen this type of question previously, maybe. Okay, if there are no questions, I am going to start writing the solution.
Yes, ma'am, you may proceed. We have no questions.
So my input is going to be just one string because that's what you can see over here. So I'm just going to call it data. Okay. And can anyone tell me whether I'll need any other? Okay, now I can see some people asking me to explain the question. So I'll do that. So we have 3 cups, okay? This is cup 1, this is cup 2, and this is cup 3, okay? Or just follow where my mouse is. And we have a ball under cup 1, okay? The leftmost cup. So we have operations which we can apply, okay? So the first is operation A, which swaps cup 1 and cup 2, okay? So that means if your ball was under 1 originally, when you apply operation A, now cup 1 will have nothing and your ball will be under cup 2, okay? And then if we apply operation B, it swaps cups 2 and 3. So suppose your ball was under cup 2, then when you apply operation B, it will be under cup 3 at the end and cup 2 will be empty, okay? And the same thing for operation C, it swaps cups 1 and 3, okay? So suppose your ball was under cup 3 in this case. When you apply operation C, it will be under cup 1 and cup 3 will be empty this time. Okay? And originally the cup is in the ball is in the first cup. Okay? In cup 1. I hope that was clear. And any operation can be performed in any order, okay? This diagram is just showing you what happens in each operation. Our input can even be something like this, okay? It's just the letters A, B, C in any order repeated any number of times. Okay? Okay, I think you've understood now. So I'm taking this string as input. Okay? So who can tell me whether I will need any other variables? Or should I just start the loop directly? What do you think? Okay, there's a question. Can we have 3 variables representing 3 cups? You can. That's one way to do it. Okay. Okay, and I can see another question. Since the leftmost cup has the ball first, how can operation B be performed first? So just to be clear, you can perform an operation regardless of whether the ball is there or not, okay? You're just swapping the cups in each operation. Even if both the cups are empty, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, yeah, now I can see that we need 1 extra variable. So that's what I'm going to use in this case. And I'm going to call it position. And I'm going to say it's equal to 1 originally, because I know that at the start, my ball is under the leftmost cup, okay, which is 1. Okay, so that's why I've set position to 1. Now I'm going to use a for loop because I want to go through each of these characters one by one, okay? So who can tell me what the for loop will be? Okay, I can see there are a couple of responses here. One says for number in range of length of data. That's a really good answer. That's one way to do it. Another way says for X in data. So that's what I'm going to use in this case. Okay. I'm going to call it char in data. Okay. Or I'm going to call it operation. Okay. Just so we're clear about what it is. So for operation in data, what this does is it gives me each character in the string one by one, okay? So suppose this is my input string. In my first iteration, operation will be C. Second iteration, operation will be B, and so on, okay? So let me just print operation so you can see exactly what's happening here. I can give an input. Okay. So this is what for operation in data is doing, okay? It's just giving you iterating through the characters of the string one by one, okay? And now who can tell me what I need to do? Suppose my character is A, okay? Suppose my first operation is A. What do I do in that case? I can see some of you have already put the full solution. That's really good, but let's just go line by line for now, just so that everyone follows. Okay, I can see someone has said if statement. So we will be using an if statement, but who can tell me what the condition is going to be? I've already put it in the comment more or less. Okay, I can see someone has put an answer that's pretty much right. So what they put is if operation is A, then if position is 1, they're setting position to 2, okay? So there are many different ways of doing this, okay? You can have a condition like if operation is equal to A and position is equal to 1 instead of this, then you set position is equal to 2, or you can have the nested if you want, okay? So I will use the and for now. Okay, and can anyone tell me what the next condition will be? And did everyone understand this much, these first two lines of my loop? Just put in the chat if you didn't understand what I've done over here, and I'll explain that. Okay, I think you understood, so I'm going to go ahead. I can see some of you have, sorry, this will have quotes. And this will have quotes because it's a string, okay? It can be single quotes or double quotes. And what will my position be equal to in this case? Okay, I'll explain again. So basically what's happening here in this first part is if my operation, sorry, this will also be A. So if my operation is A and my position is 1, then I'm setting my position to 2, okay? So what that means is, suppose this is my input, okay, AB. And initially I know that my ball is under cup 1, okay, the leftmost cup. So since my ball is under 1 and my operation is A, I have to swap them, right? So my ball will be moved to cup 2, right? So that's why I have if operation is A and my position is 1, then set my position to 2. Now, the reason I need this and part and why I can't just have if operation is equal to A is because suppose my ball was in C, okay, in cup 3, in this rightmost cup, okay, then if I apply operation A, it's not going to make any difference to my output because there's no change to where the ball is, right? It just remains in cup 3 when I apply operation A. So that's why I have this and condition, okay? And also I need this and condition because suppose my ball is under cup 2 and I apply operation A, then it goes to cup 1, right? So basically it just has to be swapped between the two. So there's two reasons why we need this, okay? One is so that we're not applying an operation when the ball is not in like one of those positions. And the second reason is because we have to swap it back and forth, okay? So I can see a question, can we give position is equal to int of input? And we won't be doing that because we're not getting any numerical input. Our input is just a string, okay? Just a set of operations, nothing else. Okay. Did everyone follow this much? Should I explain it again?
Yes, ma'am. We do have a question. As in the second nested if statement, why have we taken position as 1?
Do you mean this or this?
Yeah, ma'am, that one.
Okay. So, like I said, we're swapping it back and forth between cup 1 and cup 2 when we are applying operation A, okay? So maybe just try and draw it out on the pen and paper in case you're getting confused. That could help you understand, okay? But in terms of this diagram, this is cup 1 and this is cup 2, okay? I'm applying operation A. So my ball is here initially, okay, cup 1. When I apply operation A, it is moved to cup 2, okay? And suppose my ball is in cup 2, when I apply operation A, it's moved to cup 1, okay? So I have to know where it is currently, whether it's in 1 or whether it's in 2, and then move it to the opposite cup, okay? To either 1 or to 2, depending on that, okay? Okay, I can see, can we use else if instead of if here? And yes, you can. That's a really good suggestion. Thank you for bringing that up. It can be an if or it can be an else if. In this case, okay, no, it should be an else if actually. That's good. Thank you for pointing that out. So if it's not an else if, then suppose we do this part. Suppose we execute this. Okay, I'll show you how it will. Okay, I can see a lot of questions now. I'll show you how this will execute if I don't have an else, okay? So did everyone understand this much? Should I explain these first two conditions again or should I move on?
Ma'am, it would be good if we can go through the conditions once again.
Okay. So my first condition is when my operation is A, okay? So this is, there are two cases, okay? We can apply operation A when the ball is in neither cup 1 or cup 2, okay? So suppose the ball is in cup 3, for example. If we apply operation A, then there's no effect on our output, right? Because the ball is here and operation A just swaps cup 1 and cup 2. So our ball remains where it is in 3, okay? So that's one reason why we have these extra conditions and position is equal to 1 and position is equal to 2, okay? And the second reason that we have those conditions is, suppose my ball is under cup 1 and I apply operation A. Only in that case, my ball should be moved to cup 2, right? So only if my ball is currently under 1, only then it should be moved to 2, okay? If I remove this, then what will happen is, every time I apply operation A, I'll just keep moving the ball to position 2, which doesn't make sense because if my ball is already under cup 2, when I apply operation A, I'll want it to move back to cup 1, right? I won't want it to stay in 2. So that's why I have these two conditions, okay? One in case my ball is under cup 1 and one in case my ball is under cup 2 when I'm applying operation A, okay? Okay, so I hope you understood this. And now we're going to continue with the next operation, which is operation B. So who can tell me what the if statement will be for that? I can see a condition. Is it okay if you don't put parenthesis on the condition of if? And yeah, that's fine. You can write it whichever way you prefer. Okay, so someone put in the correct condition. So if operation is B and position is 2, it's basically just repeating the same thing again, but with different numbers. Okay, so in this case, I set my position to 3 and otherwise, I set my position to 2. Okay, so this is very similar to the first two if statements. So did everyone understand this? I think you did because I can see a lot of you putting the right answer in. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same thing for C and then we're going to run this. Okay, and then at the end, we're just going to print the final position. So let's see if this works. Okay, so our output is 1 and that is expected. And let's try the first sample. Okay, and that's the correct output too. So now I'm going to remove these else parts, and we're going to see what happens in that case, okay? So you can see now this time your output is 1, even though it's supposed to be 3, okay? And it may or may not be wrong in this case, it most probably will be, okay? So the reason that's happening is because suppose my operation is A and my position is currently 1, okay? That is this case, my starting case, when my first cup has the ball and I'm applying operation A, okay? So I should be moving my ball to cup 2, right? And that's what we've done over here. But then after that, this condition becomes true, even though it shouldn't be, and we're moving the cup back to position 1, okay? So that's why we need the else if here to prevent our data from getting updated twice, okay? Was that clear? Should I explain that again? Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, I think that was clear.
Okay, great. Let me just show you my solution also. I'm not sure if it's the same. Okay, so in my solution, I used the nested if and else if, and this is another way of doing it, okay? In case this way was confusing you, you can just have a nested if statement in case this is more clear for you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next question. And this one is basically saying you are given 2 numbers as input, okay? And you have to reverse both the numbers and then print which one is bigger out of the reversed numbers, okay? So in this case, when you reverse them, you get 437 and 398. 437 is greater, so you print 437, okay? You print the reversed version of the number. So, okay, I see a question, can we use nested if instead of checking the operation twice for the previous question? And yes, you can. So who can tell me how I will solve this? Just the first line, I mean, apart from the input. I'll just write the input line. Okay, so I'll just show you the nested solution also once because I can see a couple of questions about that. This is for the previous question. And this is the solution if we're using nested if, okay? We have first an if to check the operation. And then within that, we have a nested if and else if, okay? And we need this else if. We can't just use an else because the position could also be 3, okay? And in that case, we don't want to change this position to 1. So you need to have both these conditions. If position is 1, else if position is 2. And the same thing here. Okay. So now back to this question. We've taken the 2 numbers as input. Okay, so are these lines really needed, converting it to integers? Can anyone tell me that? Okay, I can see someone has said we have to use modulus to make a palindrome. Okay, we can use the modulus operator to reverse a number. That's a really good suggestion. But let's try another approach for this particular question. So I am going to use them as strings, okay? So by default, when we are taking input, it's going to be in string format. We know that, right? So right now I have X as a string, which is my first number in string format, and Y is also a string, okay? And I'm going to reverse these in the string format itself, okay, instead of converting them to numbers. I can see a really simple and a really good solution for reversing the string. But I'm not going to use that right now because I haven't covered that and I don't want to confuse the people who aren't familiar with Python. So we're going to use a for loop to reverse the string. So who can tell me how to do that? Can anyone tell me what the for loop will be?
Ma'am, we have a response where we are going to check for char in x, and the reverse of the variable is equal to character plus the reverse of the variable.
Okay. So I'm going to create a variable to store my reverse of x. Okay. And then I'm going to say for char in x. And rev x is equal to, or do you think it will be rev x plus char or char plus rev x?
Ma'am, the response is char plus rev x.
Okay, great. Okay. And first, I'm just going to print this so that you can see what happened, whether we've reversed it or not. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to put the brackets here. Okay, so you can see we've reversed this number, okay? So we're going to repeat the same thing for y. And for char in y, we're going to say rev y is equal to char plus rev y, exact same as before, okay? And we're going to print rev y this time just to confirm that I've done it correctly. And we can see it's giving us the reversed number. And keep in mind, this is a string, okay? Rev x and rev y are both strings. So who can tell me how we will compare them now? Do we need to convert them to integers or can we just directly compare them?
Ma'am, we could directly compare them.
Okay, that's great. We can. So I'm just going to say, sorry, if rev x, okay, can anyone tell me the condition before I write it?
Ma'am, we have a response which is if rev x is greater than rev y.
Okay, and what happens in that case? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. We print rev x, since it's print the larger of the two, and then else print rev y. Okay, so let's just execute this, and then I'll explain it once more if needed. Okay, so this is our expected output. Let's try it with another input. And that's what's expected. Okay, so I'll just go over this once more. We first took x and y as inputs, okay? And since it's separated by a space, we used split, okay? And we didn't convert them to integers. We kept them as strings itself, okay? And then we reversed each string. And you can see that's what we did over here. We looped through each string. We appended each character, okay, or rather prepended them. And then we just compare the strings directly, okay? We didn't convert them to integers for comparing. We can convert strings directly, okay? I can see a question, what is the use of char? This is basically just iterating through each character in the string, okay? Like char will be first 2, then 2, and then 1. Or here it will be first 7, and it will be 3, and it will be 4, okay? It's just going through each character of the string. Okay, I can see a question, what if it is equal? So because they have specified in the question that A and B will not be equal, we're not handling that case, okay? I can see another question, is rev a keyword? So there's no keywords that I've used here. These are all variable names, okay? Except for and in and so on, there's no specific keywords that I've used. So did everyone understand this? Was this clear enough? Okay, and let me just show you what happens. Let's forget about this part for now. And let me just show you why we've done char plus revx instead of revx plus char, okay? So I'm going to execute this. And it's just going to print the same number. Let me show you when all the numbers are different. Okay, it's just going to print the same number because all we're doing is appending each character onto the end, okay? So we're getting 7 first and we're just adding it onto the end, okay? We're just saying first 7 rev x is equal to first 7, which is what we're looping through. Then we're going to get 3 as char, so we're going to append that. And then we're getting 4 as char, so we're going to append that, okay? So that's why it's giving us the same number here without reversing it. So that's why we need to use char plus rev x. So when you're concatenating, if you're trying to reverse a string or do something like that, you need to keep in mind this order, okay, of concatenation, especially when you're reversing, because it's really easy to go wrong over there. And let me just reverse it, this order of operands, and show you what's going to happen in this case. So in this case, my rev x is empty in the beginning, and I'm looping through x, which is 734. So when it's 7, rev x is equal to char plus rev x. Okay, rev x is empty, so it's just 7 again, same as before. And then I have 3 as char. Okay, so this time I'm doing char plus rev x. So rev x is 7 and char is equal to 3. So this time rev x is equal to char plus rev x means I'll get 3, 7. Okay. And then same when I have 4, since my rev x is 3, 7 and char is 4, it will be 4, 3, 7 this time. Okay, it's being prepended to my string instead of appended. Okay, so just remember the order of concatenations. Okay, should I explain this again? Did you understand how the string reversing is working? I'll just explain this once more. Not too sure if it's clear. Okay, so here what we have is rev x, which is empty. Okay, rev x is just a variable name, nothing else. And my original string, which is 734. Okay, and I want to get 437 into rev x. Okay, that's my expected result. Okay, just for reversing, for nothing else. So in my first iteration of my loop, of this loop, just this part, just these 2 lines, my char is 7. Okay, in my first iteration. So let me write char is equal to 7. And then rev x is equal to char plus rev x. So char is 7 plus rev x, which is empty. So rev x is now just 7. Okay. So I think that's straightforward. And then next, my char is equal to 3. Okay. So in my second iteration, char is equal to 3. And now rev x is already equal to 7. Okay. So far. So what happens here is rev x is equal to char plus rev x. So rev x is equal to char, which is 3 plus 7 because that's rev x. And these are strings, so they don't get added. It becomes 3, 7. They get concatenated. Okay. And then my third iteration, char is equal to 4. And my rev x so far is equal to 3, 7. So what happens is rev x is equal to 4, which is my char, plus 3, 7, which is my existing rev x, which is equal to 4, 3, 7. Okay. So I think that was clear this time. And the rest of the question was pretty straightforward. It was just repeating the same thing for y and then checking which one is bigger. Okay. And here we don't need to convert them to integers. We can convert them to integers if we want. That's also correct, but we don't need to. That's all. Because in string format, 437 will be greater than let's say 1, 2, 3 in string format, okay? It's greater in both string format and in numerical format, so we don't have to convert them to integers. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next question. And this one, I think, is going to be pretty simple for you guys. So all they're asking is, given some numbers, okay, 3 is the number of test cases, number of inputs. And they're saying, given these numbers, just print whether they're even or whether they're odd. So can anyone tell me what the condition is for even or odd? I'm sure we covered this already, so all of you must be knowing. Can someone put in the chat? We haven't done this specific question. This is a little different from earlier. It's similar, but it's not the same question. Okay, so some of you have put the condition. That's great. And that's just n mod 2 is equal to 0. Okay. So first, let me take the count of the inputs as my first input. Okay, this is just 3 in this case. Okay. And who can tell me what my loop is going to be and whether I'll need any other variable here? Okay, can someone first tell me if I'm going to need any extra variables here, or should I just start my loop directly? What do you think? Okay, some of you are saying for loop. Okay, so that's what we'll do. So for, I think you know this. So for I in range, what's the range going to be? Count. Okay, that's correct. And then I have to check if each number is even or odd. So who can tell me what my first line is?
Getting the input from the user, ma'am.
Okay, great. So let's say number is equal to int of input. And you've already put the condition, so I'll just write that directly. So if number mod 2 is 0, what do we have to print? The number is even, okay? So print okay. And else, I'm just going to put a direct else because there's only 2 possibilities here, okay? And in this case, I print it's odd. So do you think this is going to give me the expected output? Okay, I can see a question, why not count plus 1 in my range? And that's because my range starts with 0, okay? So my range variables, or rather, my I goes from 0, 1, 2, and so on, okay? Up till count minus 1. So if count is 3, it'll go to 3 minus 1, which is just 2 in this case. If count is, say, 10, for example, it will go up till 9, okay? So I'm not really using the variable I anywhere, okay? Even if I just had an underscore, that would be fine. It's just for us to keep track of how many inputs we have to take and when we stop the loop, okay? So that's why it's not count plus 1. You can have 1 to count plus 1 if you want. That's fine too. Okay, so since you're saying this is going to give me the correct output, I'm going to run this. Okay, so this is working, but let me run this in this editor. Okay, and let me run this. So I'm going to give 3. Then I'm going to give 1, 2, 3. So you can see what's happening here is every time I'm giving an input, it's giving me the output immediately, okay? But that's not really what they're asking for, okay? What they want is to give all the inputs at one go, and then you print all the outputs at one go, okay? So this logic is correct, so that's great. But what another solution could be is kind of concatenating all your strings and then printing that at one go, okay? Concatenating all your outputs and printing that at one go. Let me just find this, give me a minute. Okay, so you can see what I've done here is the exact same as the logic which you guys came up with. The only thing that's changed is I have a variable here, which is my output string, okay? And each time I have a number that's even or odd, I'm going to say what my output string is going to be, okay? It's going to be string of my number plus it's even or plus it's odd. And then I'm going to append that or concatenate that to my output string and then just print my output string at one go in the end, okay? Now this may or may not be accepted on Catis, this solution, okay? But for some inputs, you need to have the entire output at one go, okay? You can't have each input entered and then the output immediately after that. So you need to just keep this in mind, okay? That sometimes you need to concatenate all your outputs into one string and then print that at one go, in one go. Okay, and I've used something called \n over here, okay, this part. So this is called an escape sequence, and it's basically what I'm using to print a new line, okay? So suppose I don't have this, and I run this, and I enter 3, 1, 2, 3, it's going to print everything with like on one line, one is odd, and then my next output is just 2 is even, and this is not what they're asking for because they want the output on each line for each number. So this \n, okay, it's called an escape sequence. It just adds a new line at the end of this string, okay? So now when I do 3, 1, 2, 3, you can see they're on different lines, and you can see there's an extra new line at the end over here, okay? So Catis accepts this, some sites may not. I'll show you how to remove it in the next session maybe. For now, we can just ignore it. But basically, this is coming because we're appending a new line at the end of every output string. Okay, that's why we have an extra new line at the end. So any questions about this? Okay, I can see why don't we use split function so that we can give our input in one go. You could, I suppose, but we'll be doing it this way for now. Is there any other method to approach this question? Okay, there is another method to approach this question. There are many other ways to write a solution to this question, but since I haven't taught you all the concepts yet, for now I'll be showing you only this one. If you have any other solution, that's good. I'm sure that there are many other solutions to this question. Okay, any questions about this? If not, I will move on to the last question in iteration, which is a little more complex. It's kind of a new concept also. Okay. So now this is the question which we had skipped earlier. Okay. And this question is basically saying, we'll just look at the explanation over here, that's simpler. So they want you to find this specific number, okay? And it's a number which is divisible by the sum of its digits. So if 24 is the number, it's divisible by 6, right? 2 plus 4 is equal to 6. 24 is divisible by 6. So it's a Harshad number, okay? And what they're giving in this question is some number n as input Okay, and n may or may not be a Harshad number. Okay, it could just be some random number. And we have to find the smallest number which is greater than or equal to n, which satisfies this condition. Okay. So for this, does anyone have any idea how we would solve this? Just see if you can think of the logic for how we would solve this, or write the steps in plain English. If you can't think of the code, that's fine too. What do you think? What type of loop would we use? A while loop or a for loop?
Ma'am, we are getting responses with students saying that they would prefer a while loop.
Okay, that's great. And what else would you do? How would you get the sum of the digits, and how would you get the smallest number which is greater than or equal to n? Okay, who can tell me how we'll get the sum of the digits? There are two ways to do it, at least two ways to do it. Okay, I'll explain the question again. We are given a number n as input, okay? Like, for example, here we're given 25 as input, okay? Now, if we see 2 plus 5 is 7, sum of the digits is 7, and 25 is not divisible by 7, right? So we move on to 26. Now 26, and why are we moving upwards? Because they want the smallest number which is greater than or equal to n. Now 26 is 2 plus 6, 8. 26 is not divisible by 8. So we move on to 27. And now 27, sum of the digits is 2 plus 7, which is 9. And 27 is divisible by 9. So we stop our loop and we output 27. Okay, that's what the question is saying. Okay, so who can tell me how we will find the sum of the digits first? And we just did, yeah, okay. I can see some of you are saying get the input as a string, run a for loop, and then add them with the integer function. That's really good. And some of you are using modulus. That's really good too. Okay, so I think a lot of you have got how to do this. That's great. And I'm just going to show you the solution now because there's a slightly new concept here. Give me a minute. Let me find it. Okay. Okay, so I've taken my number as input. I have just one number as input here. Okay. And then what I'm doing is while true, okay? So this is going to be an infinite loop unless I break out of it at some point, okay? And what I've done is I've set some copy of my number, okay? This is just a temporary variable. I've called it copy and I've set it to my original number, which was 24 in this case, okay? Or let's start with 25 as our example. Okay, so my num is equal to 25. And I've said while true, copy is equal to number. Okay, so copy is equal to 25. Okay, and then I've set a variable called sum of my digits to 0. Okay, so digit sum is supposed to be the sum of my digits, and I'm just going to call it sum for my example. And it's 0 initially. And then inside this while loop, I have one more while loop, okay? So this is called a nested loop, okay? So similar to how we had a nested if and else if, we can have loops nested within one another. So when we have a nested loop, and we can have nested for loops or while loops, it can be any combination of the two, okay? And when we have a nested while loop, what that means is this inner while loop runs, or inner for loop, whatever it is, runs all its iterations for every iteration of the outer loop, okay? So suppose this loop goes from 1 up to 5, okay, just suppose. And suppose this loop goes from 1 up till 10, then what happens is each time, for the first time, this loop, this inner loop will go from 1 to 10, okay, so it will execute 10 iterations. Then this loop will have the value 2, okay, and this loop will again execute 10 iterations, okay, so there will be 50 iterations total, okay. So that's what a nested loop is, okay? Did everyone understand the concept of a nested loop? Not this full program, just the concept of the nested loop. Okay, I'm gonna hope that you did. If not, I'll explain it again later. So I have my nested loop over here, and I'm saying while my copy is not 0, okay? And now what I'm doing is, in my nested loop, I'm saying in my first iteration, digit, some variable called digit, okay, is equal to copy modulus 10. So this is a way to get the last digit of some number, okay? Suppose my number is 25 like it is here, and I do 25 modulus 10. This gives me 5, right? 5 is the remainder. And that's also the last digit here. So doing modulus 10 for any number always gives me the last digit of that number, okay? So first digit is equal to 5, okay? And then digit sum plus equal to digit. So I'm adding this to my sum, which was 0 initially. So my sum becomes 5, okay? And then I'm saying copy is equal to copy by 10, and I've used floor division, okay? So what's happening here is I'm doing copy is equal to 25 floor division 10. And this will give me 2, okay? You're basically removing the last digit when you do floor division 10, okay? Did everyone understand this floor division and modulus? Okay, I'm going to hope that you did. And then what's happening is I'm coming back here to the start of my nested while loop, to step 1 again, okay? And my copy is not 0 because my copy is 2 now instead of 25. So now I'm saying digit is equal to copy modulus 10. So this time my digit is equal to 2, okay? Because 2 modulus 10 is 2. And now I'm adding this to my sum. So my sum becomes 5 plus 2, which is 7. That's the sum of my digits. And then I'm doing copy is equal to copy floor division 10. So now this time I have 2 floor division 10. And this is going to give me 0, right? So in that case, when I come back for my next iteration, my copy is equal to 0. So I exit my inner while loop and I come back here, okay? I'm still executing my outer while loop's first iteration, okay? And now my number is 25. My digit sum is 7. And this is not equal to 0, 25 modulus digit sum, okay? So I don't come in here and I increment my number by 1. So my number becomes 26 now. And then I come back and I do my second iteration of my outer while loop, okay? And now my copy is again equal to number, so it becomes 26. So I'll explain why I've used a couple of the variables here, okay? So why do I have this copy first? Why don't I just use num directly, okay? So I have copy because within this inner while loop, my copy is getting reduced to 0 each time I find the sum of the digits, okay? So I don't want my original number to be changed, right? So that's why I have this copy. And I'm setting it to num at the start of each outer while loop because I want it to be the new number, okay? The next number, which is greater than or equal to my initial input. And again, I'm initializing my sum of digits to 0 before my inner while loop at the start of every outer while loop because I don't want all my digit sums to add up for the different numbers. I want to reset them to 0 whenever I start finding the sum of digits for my next number, okay? And you can see I have while true, which is an infinite loop technically. And then I have if my number modulus digit sum is equal to 0, I break. So only if I find the number which satisfies this condition, only then I exit my loop, okay? So I've used this while true because I don't know which number is going to satisfy this condition. It could be 100 numbers later or 1,000 numbers later. I don't know. So I just want to keep going until I find that number. So that's why I have while true, because I'm not sure what my condition is. And I'm just breaking out of the loop when I do find some number that satisfies that condition. Okay? Did everyone understand this? If you don't understand the nested loop, just let me know. Okay, I think it's time. So I have given a practice problem in my slides. Maybe I'll just cover that next class. Or maybe I'll just put the link in this chat. So you guys can do it if you get time, and then explain the solution next class. Okay, I've put the link in the chat. You can do this problem if you get time. And I'll explain the solution next class.
Yes,